Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to First Parish Unitarian Universalists of Arlington.
We choose.
We choose.
We choose to be
A liberal religious community.
Welcoming.
Welcoming to all.
We encourage each other
on our spiritual journeys.
Support one another
through the changes in our lives.
And challenge the excesses
and injustices of our time.
Called to love.
To love.
To love.
And upheld by joy.
We live our faith.
I invite us all to take a posture of prayer, of meditation, of sacred pause. Perhaps your feet on the floor, a deep breath, a quieting of our bodies.
Good morning. Before I start my sermon, I know Reverend Erica mentioned that you all are a partner of UMass Action, and I just want to thank you for being a partner. Also, if you are curious about our work or want to know when our events are, please come see me after the service to sign up for our newsletter. Now, some may say this is just an email in your inbox, but I might say it is a wealth of information and a beacon of light, justice, and action to take. So if you want to be involved in that, please come see me and I'll get your email and get you on that list. In remote forests in Madagascar, there is an orchid that is somewhat star-shaped. A delicate branching of white petals called the star of the forest. She may look delicate, and one may think her name comes from her shape, but she is also the star of the forest because she grows in complete darkness. This isn't just a survival technique for her. She thrives in darkness. The orchid gets nutrients from underground fungus, does not have chlorophyll for photosynthesis, but cuts through the dirt every so often to attract pollinators such as ants. I love reading about this orchid. I love knowing that there is thriving in darkness. This orchid is also a reminder for me about the ability for life to survive and thrive in unexpected places, in dark forest floors. Beautiful, delicate, perhaps a piece of joy, thriving orchids that live happily and healthily in the dark. I think we are all in need of the possibility that exists within these thriving orchids. As fascism rages on, hatred grows, and violence surges, I urge us all to take a collective breath right now so that we can be and take a moment to be in the forest with these orchids. In my work as a leader of the organization UMass Action, working alongside organizers on legislation, advocacy, and change in the areas of climate, environmental, indigenous, immigration, economic justice, and decarceration, I am sure things will shift, but honestly, most of our justice work has remained the same and just becomes more and more urgent. I'm wondering if during this time, we, not as individuals, not as congregations, but as a faith, as Unitarian Universalists who exist all over the globe, I'm wondering if we will decide that we want a better world and will fight for it like we never have before. I hope this is our chance not only to fight fascism and injustice, but to finally change the status quo, to bring down our systems of harm in crafting and creating a worldwide community of true care. In these movement spaces, doing this work, I find myself standing in an awkward space of not being super hopeful, but having hope for the possibility of hope. I know that people have the capacity to do better, even when I've seen again and again that we do not act on this capacity. When thinking about what blocks my ability to move from having hope and hope to just being hopeful, I think about my ability to grieve. I believe that if we take time and space in grieving, we will have a better capacity for joy, for delight, and we need these things. We need joy, we need delight to continue on in these movement spaces and to remember why we fight. Many, many summers ago, Joni Mitchell, who is now in her 80s, made a surprise guest appearance at the Newport Folk Festival and sang Both Sides Now with Brandi Carlile. This is a haunting, definitely sad song, and when I watched the video, I did not weep, I sobbed. I'm sure many of you have experienced songs, art, moments that felt that they are breaking you open. I think this song for me, both in its melody and the lyrics about knowing life and love and realizing that you don't at all, and that's okay, and maybe not the point, broke me open. I know that during this time, also singing in community was and will always be regulating. I also know that these kinds of experiences are best felt not through a sermon, but by actually doing. And I'm wondering how many people know both sides now. All right, we're not gonna sing the full song, but I'm just gonna start and you just pop in as you are willing and able. Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way. I've looked at love from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Thank you. Part of me was sobbing in this moment just due to everyday beauty, part loving Joni Mitchell and still seeing her singing, and part of it was I just needed to cry. I was reminded of the activist and writer Adrienne Maree Brown, who says, "Remember, you are water. Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying." We carve room for joy and also still feel the despair. In a sermon about despair written in 2019 by the UU minister Victoria Safford, she responds to the despair and grief feeling at the time with, "Time is not an arrow. Time is not an arrow shot from the bow at the beginning, propelling history inevitably in one doomed direction. It is not. There are no straight lines in this round world, no guarantees, and seasons change and movements grow. Hearts beat on, and all things like water ebb and flow. Despair can give way to resistance if you voice it in community. Grief can become resilience if you honor the weight of it and let others help you bear it. Cynicism can be melted, grim certainty unrusted. Apathy can wake up if the music's loud and strong enough. In this time of our history when violence rages on, wars begin and continue, our climate feels on the edge, if not already in the midst of disaster, there's reason for despair. There is reason for despair, for grief, cynicism, apathy. It is one thing to talk about melting cynicism and having despair give way to resistance, but how does this all come about? How are we not consumed by despair? How do we make room for joy and song, the things that make our world, our survival worthwhile and beautiful? And what about rage and anger? A quote from Marshall Rosenberg, who writes about nonviolent communication. I see all anger as a life-alienating, violence-provoking thinking. At the core of all anger is a need that is not being fulfilled. Thus, anger can be valuable if we use it as an alarm clock to wake up, to realize we have a need that isn't being met, and we are thinking in a way that makes it unlikely to be met. Use anger as a wake-up call. And what a great wake-up call. It is a strong emotion that will certainly get you up in the morning. Let anger and rage wake you up, but don't let it put you to sleep. Find ways in your days to channel it, use it for justice, use it to create spaces where joy is safe and guarded. Fight to create spaces where people have resources, people have joy, and protect these spaces. No one gets our joy, and we have the power, tools, and resources right here, right now, to protect our communities, to protect our loved ones. Let anger get you to the place of building, and then let yourself feel a joy that fascism, violence, and capitalism doesn't want you to have. My recipe for not being consumed by our emotions and our rage is threefold. First, don't forget your people. Gather for them, cook for them, care for them, love for them, and let yourself be gathered. Let your people cook for you, love you, and gather you. Gather your people, be gathered, and then let yourself cry. Let yourself grieve. And finally, after being gathered, after grieving, we remind ourselves why we survive. This is the fun part. This is where we dance. We eat the food we have cooked, we sing. We remember that our survival is beautiful and in so many cases resistance. Do not forget your people. Let yourself cry and grieve. Remember why we want to survive. Often, before I board a plane, I text a lot of people. I then turn my phone on airplane mode, and when I land and turn it back on, I'm very, very popular. I get messages from all the people that I love. Do things such as this, silly things that remind people that you love them and they love you. Open yourself to being reminded of all those that love you. Be with people in a way that makes you remember that life wants life. Next, we let go of despair and let our bodies, our hearts grieve. Once the people have been gathered, fed, and loved, let the grief be felt. Let the tears fall. Remember that we are water, of course we leave salt trails, of course we are crying. Tears that are not the pain themselves, but a release of the pain, a sign of the pain, a physical representation of grief. As a leader, a minister, part of accepting grief is necessary to staying in the work, to staying connected to the world. Accepting grief is part of avoiding despair. Not only do we need to grieve, we are grieving in the midst of so many losses and circumstances that persist, that continue, and in some cases get worse. We are tired of making so many decisions that are not flippant decisions, but that relate to our survival. We are tired of living through uprisings and seeing racism viciously persist. We are tired of violence building rather than diminishing. We are tired of war, of hatred being acted upon by violence, by occupation. We are tired of violence at the borders, at our detention centers and prisons. We are tired of fighting for an earth that some seem to care about and others don't. We are tired. Of course we are crying. And as we gather and as we cry, let us remember that despair can be paralyzing, but that grief doesn't have to be. In an article about eco-anxiety entitled, "How Can I Stay Hopeful as the World Burns?" Aisha Mirza interviews Robin Wall Kimmerer, the author of many books, including Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. Mirza asks Kimmerer how she stays hopeful, and she says, "The grief is heartbreaking. But what I try to do is to feel this deeply. Grief can paralyze us. It can bring us to despair and hopelessness. But once we recognize that the pain we are feeling is ecological compassion, it's love for a world that is strong and fierce and says, 'Not on my watch.'" The other day I walked out of a church after giving a similar sermon about grief. I have a daughter who is 2 years old, or 2.5, pardon me. She was at the nursery the time I was giving my sermon, and after the sermon I finished, I shook a few hands on my way out, and I went to pick up my daughter, bringing her back to coffee hour. I came to the chattering, coffee-laden air holding Simone, and someone approached me and said, "You must be a bit more hopeful than you let on. You brought this beautiful child into the world." And yes, I am much more hopeful than I let on. And am I scared, grief-stricken, and angry too? Yes. But I am much more hopeful than I let on, and I know that life wants life, and I do have so much hope for this broken world. I brought life into the world because I firmly believe that there is and will be a great life for her to live. And so I gather my people, I let myself be gathered, I come home to a house where we cook meals for each other, sing, say grace, think about the resources we need and the extra ones we have to give. We set and create space so there's room for when the tears come, they can be released, where anger is welcomed and you can scream as long as you don't wake the toddler. We sweep our floors, bake bread, make themed cocktails, bake cakes, and we celebrate the life that is here, the life that is us. We gather, we cry, we celebrate our survival amidst it all. It is no joke to feel grief deeply, especially when there is so much to grieve. But I think it helps when we know and remember that in part to grieve is to love. The last part of my recipe is we have to act on this love, to remember why we move, why we work to protect the world, and this is the part where you do what you love. Experience joy and delight, dance, go see art, go to the ocean, listen to something that makes you laugh. Remind yourself of why you love your life. And we are excellent at loving. Let that not go to waste. Our perhaps broken hearts certainly have a lot of territory to cover, but I have hope and knowledge that we can handle and cover it. I think it's going to take a lot of work, but not more than we can handle. We do not do it alone, and we do not do it in despair. To want to survive in of itself is a beautiful thing, and to want to survive in a broken world on flames is even more beautiful, and perhaps it is, at its core, hope. So gather your people, let your tears flow, make music that is strong and loud enough. Our systems have been broken for a long time. They have been broken long before this administration. I am finding hope in this chance to build new systems, to dream what our world could look like and make it happen. We will survive because of our joy, because of our people, because we have always been good at loving. These are hard times, but I am finding hope in that untapped power of our collective grief. We have so much of it. It is deep, it is present, it is powerful. What if we truly match this collective grief with action? What if we truly grieved as a society, as a faith, and took collective action just as deep, just as present, just as powerful? At UMass Action, we have a lot of hope and faith in building power. Let us keep building power. Let us not ignore our grief, but find energy and life within it, and let us match this energy and life with action. Let us remember that to want to survive in and of itself is a beautiful thing, and to want to survive in a broken world is even more beautiful, and perhaps it is, at its core, hope. Amen, and blessed be.